know protocol has been established, but I have to say a couple of things about not only the angel of this house, but also the CEO of this organization. One, Pastor Van, Darrell said that this was a circle moment for him. And this is also a circle moment for me. I joined Second Ebenezer Church back in 1996 before I was running for office. And there was a pastor there named Edgar Van who embraced me, who counseled me, who sat me down, who told me the truth, who helped me understand the quote-unquote lay of the land, not just in the city of Detroit as a whole, but also amongst the clergy and pastors and ecumenical community, and also the philanthropic community and the people around the city. So at 25 years old, I was sitting there soaking it all in. And I knew then that he had a greater wisdom than most. You know, the Lord's praise in what Paul prays in the book of Ephesians, he said that he was praying that the Lord release the spirit of wisdom and revelation and the knowledge of Christ. There are some people that get a little bit more of that wisdom. And the pastor here definitely is one of those men. And so I just want to thank you personally for being instrumental in my life. Darrell understands this, and there are others here, that sometimes when you're being a knucklehead and you get sat down somewhere, and in the night season in those cells. Now, the night season don't last a night. I know what the Bible, weeping may endure. I know what y'all was singing. Weeping may endure for a night, joy coming to morning. I know, I get all that. No, weeping can endure for a year. No, I know church folk, you get up joyful. No. You can be in a night season for a long time. The beauty of the night season is that all the light that you heard, all of the light moments that you heard while you were walking around in your darkness, they start to come back at you. And your voice came back at me in that cell. And so I want to thank you immensely, you and the First Lady, for who you are. And thank you for your anointing. My wife is here. I got out of prison, and I went right to work. I ain't got time to waste. When your life is slowed down, Darrell, you try to hey, listen, I'm living abundantly now. I wish I knew Jesus before like I knew him now. I'm living abundantly, and the Lord gave me a wife. The Bible says that he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. It didn't say he who finds a woman or a girlfriend or just a good chick. It said he who finds a wife. And when I found Leticia, she was a wife already. And so for 2.5 years, we was doing this on the phone and with letters, writing back and forth from each other. And I just say this, brothers, I know the Lord said don't have sex before you're married. We always thought that was killing your buzz. That was the Lord being a joy kill. But I learned something by not being able to have that. You actually got to get to know a person. You actually got to ask questions and have conversations and be honest. I was not a good catch. Yeah, I had on prison clothes with a 28-year sentence, so I didn't have nothing to lose. We didn't even like each other at first. It was more of a friendship. So she asked me a question. I told her the honest, unadulterated truth, and she did the same. And what I found out is you really get a chance to know somebody when you do that. And when I got out, it didn't take me long. There you go. Let's do this. Marry me. And so she's been an incredible force of nature and spirit in my life, and I just thank her. And the CEO, Leticia, and the CEO, because I know my time is short, I'm gonna blaze through this, the CEO of this organization, I'm fascinated and in awe at his life, period. He's an incredible person, one who has gone through what they call the vicissitudes of life. And just as a couple of people came up here and testified to, he overcame it by the blood of the Lamb and the word of his testimony. And he was able to, once that happened, gifts start coming to him. So much so that after getting a GED, he found himself at Morehouse College, the esteemed Morehouse College. How do you get kicked out of Finney, kicked out of Kettering, had to go to a one stop for a GED, and find yourself at Morehouse now with alumni and with the full backing of the institution, and then understanding that God planted you in this nonprofit field to go back to the very people that you used to hang with and tell them about recovery. That is an awesome testimony, and I love you, brother. His wife, Keneal, I just love them, and I love all of you. There's so many people here that made an impact on my life, and I'm just going to get going so we can get out of the way. Hurley Coleman, from the time I was a little bitty kid, that man has been in my life. I see Troy Muhammad back there. I see Steve Etta and so many people here, Sherry. Thank you all. And you talked about Holla at the Mayor show, doing the show on the radio. That was good. And Daryl already mentioned, I met Daryl when he was doing life. He was actually had a life sentence. And he would invite me to come out and speak. And I say, okay, I'll come. And I go out to Mound and hang out with Daryl for the day. And he ran that prison. Y'all saw him standing here, right? I didn't understand that. I didn't understand prisons at the time. I used to go in there like, man, I ain't never coming up in here. You remember I used to talk to man, yeah, okay. Never tell the Lord never. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. But it was prison where I fell down on my knees after a man from Yukon, Oklahoma, talked to me in the back of a prison chapel and asked me one simple question. Do you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ? And I said, no. He said, I appreciate your honesty. I don't get that much. I said, I've been in church all my life, but I don't believe I have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. I don't even know what that is. I was mad at myself. I was mad at all y'all. I ain't like none of y'all. The people that I just praised, I didn't like none of y'all either. I was mad, and I know this don't happen to you, but when you real mad, when you real depressed, when you feel in the dark and ostracized by everybody, when you in a suicidal mindset, you don't like nobody. Nobody was good. I didn't want to talk to nobody, and I was comfortable in a solitary confinement cell. Day 100. You know how it is. Day 102. Day 150. I'm in solitary. Day 180. Let's just get it. Whatever. What is that? Whatever it's going to be, it's going to be. I didn't want to live. But it was in that place when I got out that I walked in front of this man, and I had to answer the question and be confronted with the truth of the matter that I don't know him. And he said something to me. He said, do you want to get to know him right now? Change my life in an instant. The gospel of Jesus Christ. So I cannot go anywhere. He said, if you be ashamed of me here, I'll be ashamed of you there. And so I don't go anywhere without first letting you know that I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, nor am I ashamed of whom I believe. And so today I want to talk to you about recovery, but in a different way. Really quick, I want to go to a scripture. You've heard it before. It's in the book of Luke, the Gospel of Luke in the 10th chapter. We're going to talk about that one they call the Good Samaritan. Yeah, that scripture, because the lawyer in this scripture, he asked a great question. He just said to Jesus in his own arrogant, self-righteous way, he said, who is my neighbor? And I wanted you to understand what that means, because a lot of people say, okay, let's look at it, because I don't know the story, and I love that. I love that. So Luke 10, and I'm going to start at 25 to 37. I'm going to read pretty fast. I'm in a New Living Translation Bible. One day, an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question. Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life? The lawyer is talking to Jesus. Jesus, being as smooth as he is, already knowing that the dude is trying to trip him up, looked right at him and said, what does the law of Moses say? How do you read it? It's funny when you ask Jesus a question, he asks you one back. The man answered, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself. Basically repeating what Jesus had already said as the great commandment. Jesus said, right, you said well. And he told him, then do it. Do this and you will live. The man wanted to justify his own actions, his own self, so he asked the question that I posed to you. Who is my neighbor? If I'm supposed to love my neighbor as myself, then who is my neighbor? The man didn't want to say anything about the first part. Love the Lord with all of your heart. So Clyde and said, beat him up and left him for dead beside the road. By chance, a priest, a pastor, a preacher, someone who stood in the place of God's man in the temple, the priest, the one who stood in the place of character, and that he taught people character. He taught people how to react, how to act, how to conduct themselves. A priest was walking by this beat up man. He saw him lying there. He crossed the street to the other side and passed him by. Then a Levite, church folk. He was an assistant to the priest. A Levite was walking by. You know, somebody that go to Second Ebenezer, or not Second Ebenezer. Where Daryl go? Somebody go to one of these other churches. They go to church every week. They pay their tithes. They do the things that they're supposed to do in the church. They work in the church. But they were walking down the street one day, and they saw this beat-up man lying there, bloody, messed up on the sidewalk. They saw him, checked him out, and walked across the street, and they didn't help him either. But then another man came by, a Samaritan. Now this is interesting because you have to know that the Samaritans were despised by the Jewish people. These people were outcasts. They couldn't even talk to them, deal with them, or anything. As a matter of fact, you remember when Jesus was at the well with that woman, the Samaritan woman, the disciples came, and the first thing they was wondering, what are you doing with this woman? Most people say it's just because she was a woman, but it's also because she was a Samaritan. We don't mess with them. Okay, let me put this in today's terms. It was a white guy that was beat up on the sidewalk, and your black self crossed the street. It was an Arab that was beat up on the side of the road, and your Jewish self crossed the street. We got to put it in today's term. It was a young guy with some dreads, and his pants were sagging, and your self-righteous, wonderful, bougie self crossed the street. It was an old guy over there on the side of the road, and your young, hip-hop, cool self looked at him and crossed the street. We okay? Okay, we okay. But this man, a Samaritan, who was despised by the so-called people of God, a Samaritan who wasn't under a covenant. Okay, wait a minute, He was a Samaritan that didn't know who his bishop or his pastor was. He had an idea about the scriptures because his father on one side of his lineage was Jewish, but they didn't have to come and participate in all the stuff. A Samaritan saw the man and said, hey, he's hurting. He walked up to him and he immediately started to render care. Sometimes we say stuff like this, oh man, I pray for him. Sometimes we say, oh, that dude is strung out. I'm going to pray for him. The Samaritan said, I'm not going to stand over here and send some prayers. When God was looking for help, he created me. So what I'm doing is I'm going over there and I'm going to help the brother who's fallen. That's what this organization is. This organization is a good Samaritan. It's not a church organization. It's not even a church folk organization. It's just a bunch of people who know that Christ put them in this organization so they can be good, be him in the community. So what did this Samaritan do? The first thing it says that he felt compassion for him. Oftentimes in the scripture it says Jesus had compassion. Why don't you have compassion? What happened to you? I told you I was in a solitary confinement cell and I didn't like none of y'all. Have you been so damaged that you can't have no love for nobody else? Has your heart been so trampled upon that you can't give it away to nobody else? Why didn't you cross the street the other day? Why, when your aunt called about your cousin, that you got that call several times in your life, this time you just didn't do anything? Why? Why, when you see somebody hurting, the best you can do is say, I pray for them. And you probably don't even pray after you say it. Your prayer is saying, I'll pray for them. Each one of us have to examine. This parable is for us to look at ourselves. Am I the priest? Am I the Levite? Or am I the good Samaritan? The Samaritan not only had compassion, but he went over to the man. And the first thing he did was he took out some oil. Now, there's spiritual significance to this entire story. You've probably heard it preached that the Samaritan was like Christ, who came for people like us. You've probably heard it preached that this oil was like the Holy Spirit that came and bounded up the wounds and the sins of the past. I'm just talking about some regular oil. I don't want to make this super spiritual because I don't want to lose you and your responsibility to just do something right here in Detroit. Yeah, we got heaven. Yeah, but what about Detroit? Jesus came that you might have life here and have it life more abundantly. How do you have life more abundantly? The first thing you have to do is live. How can I live my fullest if I can't reach out and help somebody who's hurting? You know, the consummation of joy is to share it with somebody. When I passed the bar exam, it would have been good to pass the bar exam and then sit in the room and say, I passed the bar exam. Yeah, That was cool for a minute, but I had to tell somebody. Why did I have to tell somebody? Because there has to be consummation for me to experience joy. I wanted to see the look on my mother's face when I told her. Because her joy became my joy. Her tears made me cry. When somebody's down and depressed, you don't feel it too? When somebody's beat up on the side, coming off a year like we've had, where every week you hear somebody you know somebody's sister or brother, you know, they're dead. I've been in Detroit 4 days. I've been to 2 funerals. My uncle, who passed away, and his funeral was Saturday, fully vaccinated, wore a mask. The person in our family that was always wear a mask, died of COVID by himself in a hospital in South Carolina. I'm on the phone crying. Why? I can't help. Why can't I help? There's nothing inside you that wants to help. There's nothing inside you to say, Daryl's been in prison 28 years, I got to get him out. Them 3 men didn't go to the king just because they wanted to do something fancy. They went over there because they can't imagine sitting in one place for 28 years and not helping. God put you in a position to help. Reverend Van couldn't go into prison and talk to the warden, but Reverend Van can do what Reverend Van can do. I'm going to the governor. Everybody can't go to the governor, but you can do something. What can you do? The Samaritan said, I'm going to do something. I'm moved in my soul and my spirit to do something, and I'm going to do it. What did he do? The first thing is he tried to eliminate the pain. I'm using the oil. I'm going to stop some of the pain. Then the next one said he gave him some wine, and he used wine, not just to get him drunk. He poured wine in the wound. Why? To clean it out. I'm going to clean out the wound too. Whatever is bothering you, Detroit recovery, what's your problem? Man, I can't stop heroin. It's ruined my life. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in some conversations and some teaching and around some people because I got to stop your pain. Why do I need to stop your pain? Because when we get hurt, we return to what we've been doing. An adulterer is not an adulterer because he's not cheating. Let me speak from experience. And you don't stop cheating just because you're not cheating right now. I was in prison. I could walk around prison and say, I'm not an adulterer. Yeah, well, I'm not gay. I'm not gay. And there were no women there. There was no opportunity to cheat. I can't declare I'm not a cheater because there's no opportunity. You're not off heroin if you ain't got no money to buy none. The brother came up here and said, one thing I got to know about myself, even if you don't know it, I got a problem. And I'm fighting this out there in the parking lot doing push-ups right now. Yeah, I was listening because he recognized the sin and the weight that so easily besets him. What's the problem then? The problem is people are declaring that they something that they not. They're declaring that they something that they ain't got over yet. How do I stop being an adulterer? I got to be something else. I can't be this and this. I can't be a good preacher and a good cusser. I can't cuss all the time and preach all the time. I got to choose. If I'm preaching, I can't be a good. When I was a cusser, I was a great cusser. I could string it together. I could look you right in your eye, and give it to you. Now I can't do it. It don't come out right. I sound crazy. People are like, stop, man. You know, just you sound weird, man. I mean, I can't communicate with that. I can't do it anymore. You got to choose. You either an adulterer or you saved by the grace of God and you stop because you've been cleaned up and you're something new. You his. But if you hurting, if you ain't got no oil, if we ain't cleaned out the spot where the wound is, I can't get you to even listen to me so you can change. How did the man get clean? Because somebody was there that been through the same thing. You got to understand that the man that went to him is a man that was despised. The man that went to help him is somebody nobody liked. The man who went to help him was somebody who had already been kicked around in his life because of who he is. Why do you have compassion on people locked up, Daryl? You out. But not really. Because when you wake up in the middle of the night, you see, ooh, I've been blessed. When Daryl was talking, tears was rolling down my eyes. Why? I mean, why am I so? Because I'm familiar with that infirmity. I understand it. I know what it's like to be in there thinking, all my appeals are over. Am I ever going to get out this place? Lord, you said I wouldn't be here 28 years. I know what that's like. I know what it's like. Well, why did the Samaritan go over and the priest didn't? The church folk didn't. See, there's a new brand of church folk. See, because some of y'all was crazy. I was sitting right there. This ain't nothing I heard. This wasn't a story. I heard you talking about you up here. Some of you all have experienced problems in your life. You ain't even trying to play perfect. You've been through something. And so it's something in you inclined to that man that's lying there all messed up to say, I need to help him. Even when I don't feel like it, it's time for me to go home today. Some of y'all be like, how you doing? Come on with me, sir. The reason you like that is because God put something in you. He didn't dress you up, fix you up, give you your oil, give you your wine, stand you straight up, make you all good for you to go back home and lay around and watch Netflix. He made you better to serve. That's why Andre Johnson, he got all better. We all know he could go out and make some money. He a bad dude. But something, when he wanted to do this, kept saying, no, I cleaned you up for this. I gave you another chance for this. The Samaritan understood what it was like to be in the outcast of society. The Samaritan understood what it was like to be passed by. The Samaritan understood what it was like to be despised. So the Samaritan went over with all of that and gave the man care. He bandaged him up. He took care of him. And he actually took him to a place where he can rest. He gave him a place to stay. And then he did something crazy. He paid his bill. Now, spiritually, that's what people get to Jesus in the story. Paid your tab. You know, the wages of sin is death. We all have sinned. I know y'all saw mine in the paper, but I know you did it too. I read the Bible. I read the whole thing. And it says y'all sinners too. So I ain't trying, y'all look at me, I'm looking at you. So here we go. The wages of sin is death. Jesus said that tab you owe, I paid it with my blood on the cross. So this Christ-like man not only fixes this man all the way up, but takes him somewhere and gives him a Sabbath. Ain't that something? He gave him rest. You stay here. And if this room that I'm putting him in, young man, he paid the hotel bill, then he said, if it costs more than I gave you, I'll be back to pay you some more. I'm paying the whole bill for you to be all right. This is my last point, and I'm going to take my seat. The reason why you have Detroit Recovery is because none of us individually can afford to heal the sickness that's in our streets. None of us can afford to go get all the people who just got out of prison and need reentry services. None of us can afford to go get the people who had problems with alcohol. You know how many hundreds of thousands of people are having problems right now and not even recognizing it? Problems with drugs and problems with all kinds of things, mental health disorders. None of us individually can go out and help those people. So what God did, he put an idea in a couple of people. This is amazing because I love that Dr. Trent did what he did because this is so good. The Bible says that a man that does exactly what God says do, his fruit will remain. Dr. Trent is not in the earth anymore. Dr. Trent had a date where he had to meet God face to face. Dr. Trent knew Jesus, and he knew that he had a crown waiting on him, and he went on ahead. But what he did while he was here was started something that's still bearing fruit. Is somebody going to get help today that should be thanking Dr. Trent? Oh, thank you, Dr. Trent, for the idea. You are a part of history. The pastor, the reverend, the minister from Triumph said that I was here the first day we started putting together them breakfasts to do this. It was so important that she said that for me because this ain't no fly-by-night thing for her. She's committed. You are a part of history because you are binding up the brokenhearted. Christ-like. You are proclaiming liberty to the captives. Christ-like. This organization, under the leadership of a man who was just like the Samaritan. He knew what it was like to not have anywhere to go. He knew what it was like to hurt and nobody was coming to help him heal. He knew what it was like to want help and can't find help. But just like the Samaritan, he said the leaders that everybody's looking for, they already here. The help that the Lord wants to send, he already created in me. And so while we're all here, is because within this story, certainly there's spiritual significance, but there's also significance for you and I. We have an obligation after coming through COVID, after coming through hell and high water, after coming through the vicissitudes of life, God allowed you to make it right here, right now, in this sanctuary. Why? He has no accidents, incidents. This is intentional. Whether you're 8 years old or 80, sitting here now, you got something to do. And because you're at Detroit Recovery, this is what you have to do to help the least of these. God bless you, God keep you, and continue to work on purpose. Thank you.